Brown Wilkinson, Buchan, Cope, Crickhowell.
Here on the red benches of the chamber of the House of Lords sit the peers of the realm. For the last 4 years, they've been the focus of a drama whose repercussions could affect us all.
Gavron, Glenask, Glenamara, Harmsworth, Harris of Peckham, Henley.
Some are lords appointed for their lifetime, but some are hereditary. The hereditaries are from families whose right to come to this place and contribute to the lawmaking process has been passed down the generations for hundreds of years. Many governments have considered the abolition of the hereditaries, but none has attempted it because they couldn't come up with a working alternative. This government felt more strongly.
People say there's no Tory opposition anymore. Well, there is. It's alive and well and unelected and in the House of Lords with a 3-to-1 majority over us. And when we used the mandate the British people gave us at the ballot box to get rid of the power of those hereditary peers, I call that democracy.
This promise was a popular one. It appealed to a party impatient to modernise the country. The hereditaries would go. After all, few could justify their continuing presence. But that's as far as the plans went. Inside Parliament, controversy raged over who would take their place. And today, 3 years after their departure, the dilemma is still unresolved.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The Lord Chancellor.
Was the removal of the hereditary peers in itself any guarantee of democracy? I wanted to tell the story of the end of the hereditary peerage in the House of Lords. The government wouldn't take part in the film and discouraged its party members from doing so too. So I focused on those who'd be banished. This is one side of the story, the hereditary side. After some 800 years, their time was up, and, many felt, not before time. As I started filming in October '99, it was clear, even to an outsider, that the house was unsettled.
Sorry,
The Reform Bill had been hanging over their heads for over a year, and the Lords had been doing their utmost to amend it. The government was now impatient for its business.
I am bound to say to the House that on this particular bill, I represent and lead for the government. And the government feels very strongly, as do my backbenchers, on this matter, that we have wasted a great deal of time. An American commentator coined the phrase some time ago, clinging to the furniture. That's not a phrase much used in this country, but, my lords, there are some of us on this side of the House whose patience with some of these motions is becoming stretched.
It was a case of out with the old, in with the new. As the hereditaries were leaving, the government was creating large numbers of new peers to redress the political imbalance in the House. But the House had never had such a rapid intake in its history. Have you felt differences? Have you felt a different attitude towards the House over the last few weeks?
Yes, I have.
Yes, I thought you might have done.
I think people are rather indignant. But I think that's a pity. We must be nice to the new people who come. It isn't their fault that Tony likes them. Or is it? It's always been a very nice place there.
Thank you very much.
Now that is Lord Stockton with the beard. He's Macmillan's grandson.
Right. Yes.
And that was Glenarthur.
The other man.
Yes.
Where is your title from, Lord Romney? Where was your title from?
Oh, a long time ago. In the 18th century. And then we got made up at 1801, we've got made earls. But we were mere barons before that, you know. Riff-raff.
What's happening?
They're taking our photographs.
Do you know why?
We're all going, you see. The sort of leaving, the sort of school leaving photograph.
The Conservatives were to be most affected by the changes. The Association of Conservative Peers, a mixture of hereditary and life peers, wanted a photograph of their members before half were removed from the House.
All the big honchos are here, aren't they?
But not all hereditaries were leaving. Knowing there was no hope of defending themselves, the leader of the Conservatives at the time, Lord Cranborne, had secretly offered Blair a deal. He promised they'd go quietly if a nucleus of the hereditary peerage could stay on until a decision were made as to how to replace them. And so out of a hereditary peerage of some 750, created by history, chance and birthright, 92 were to be allowed to stay for the time being. Each political party has to select 10% of its members, and they're to be chosen by election.
There we are. Look at all this. Queues everywhere.
Every hereditary peer from each political party has to come to this office to register for a vote.
Well, we shall see. Right.
Those who choose to can stand for election with an optional CV of no more than 75 words.
Is that all right?
That's brilliant.
There's nothing wrong with submitting yourself to election. It's a perfectly honourable thing to do. There's nothing in the least bit demeaning about that.
That's interesting.
Of course. Is it demeaning to submit yourself for election to the House of Commons? It's an honour. There's nothing demeaning about it.
I've delicately put this in. Good morning. Hello, how are you?
How are you?
I sent in my form to you, which you should have got. My name's Glasgow, by the way.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes.
That's what I'd like to do.
Yes, I have to say I think that's really impressive.
Why did you decide on such a very simple entry?
Why did I?
Yes.
Because I didn't want to show any degree of arrogance by not conforming to it at all. And I thought that to write 75 words about why I am a dunce was absolutely totally unacceptable and demeaning to one's self-esteem.
Yes.
You'll do that for me, won't you?
Oh, definitely.
The most important thing about this bill, and what should be the most important thing about this debate and this issue, is that it's all very simple. What our manifesto said is simple, this legislation is simple, and we can best judge it if we recognise the almost exquisite simplicity of what it proposes. It removes the right presently enjoyed by some 750 people, almost 100 more than the total elected to this House, to sit and vote in our Parliament solely on the basis of their birth and without any consideration whatever of their personal qualities or achievements. Of course, some members opposite have started to say that they don't mind the House of Lords being replaced as long as it's with something better. Anything would be better.
How are we going to see these statements?
They're going to be produced in a booklet. So there'll be 5 booklets, Conservative candidates, Lib Dem, etc.
No, I think it was the Daily Telegraph that said the Labour Party conference, one thing that drew hundreds of applause when anyone said anything horrible about the hereditary peers.
They said what?
When anyone said anything horrible about hereditary peers, it got from tremendous cheers. But that's rather like kicking spaniels when they're on the ground. And people are who they are and what they are, it's not their fault. And those who come to the House of Lords come to do a job of work.
I'm sure it's less than 75.
I'd rather agree with Lord Ferrers, who said just before I went to Australia, it was quoted in the paper saying, if they don't know what I've done here, then to hell with it all. I agree with that. I should do this with extreme reluctance.
I'm full of indecision.
Absolutely. I think it's still
yeah.
about standing for election or not.
Yeah. It's very difficult, if you're thoroughly conceited, like I am, to think that anybody would want one. I mean, look at me, I'm 77, practically 1 foot in the grave. I'm not a politician, and there we are.
So whatever happens, you are an elector.
Yeah.
And then, if you want to, you can just add to it and become a candidate as well.
God, it is a dilemma, isn't it?
It's terrifying, actually, I think, because I'm convinced it's tone for president. I'm convinced he wants to be president. Oh, my ancestor would be turning in the grave.
We are fine. Go.
Black Rod, whose job is to ensure the smooth running of the House, also leads the processions of new peers being introduced.
This is the most remarkable period of turbulence, I suppose, since this House started 600 years ago. I mean, it's not just a minor episode along the continuum of government, if I can put it that way. It is a major constitutional change which is affecting a number of people who feel very deeply about it.
I'll tell you something. This House of Lords bill, when it comes back in, that we've got to throw it out. You cannot...
Not everybody wants to go along with the bill, but throwing it out means losing everything. The Cranbourne deal, the elections, and the 92 who would stay on. But that's how strongly some of the opposition peers feel about the Lords Reform Bill. It isn't just self-preservation. They feel there could be serious consequences of which the public are not yet aware.
No, the people. The public don't, and the public don't know. People don't. Well, only 2% of them even knew the damn thing was on when they were asked the other day. That is true. And this would wake them up, Lord Strathclyde.
By exposing a technical irregularity in the bill, a group of backbenchers are hoping to invalidate it. But to succeed, they need the support of popular and prominent House members. Earl Ferrers inherited his seat at 26 and has served on the Tory front bench as a minister.
Not to do with composition.
Lending his weight to their amendment would make all the difference, but he remains uncertain.
Of course, you can't actually use the 1911 Act to push this thing through.
Can you come? Come on in. Molly wanted to know whether she could come. I said you'd have to ask you.
And I knew you'd be delighted.
Yeah, I'm delighted. Oh, really? Yeah. Straddles, help me.
These are agonies of decision-making.
Well, I know, but there are going to be more important decisions than this one. This is a manufactured case. It is a ploy.
It's not a ploy. I'm not trying to beggar the bill.
Well, then, what is the point of it?
Not so short. I'm not trying to beggar the bill, really.
Yes. You've committed yourself to somebody.
Well, I haven't committed. No, I just said, well, I'll join in on this. I haven't actually said I'm going to vote for it.
I think that the case is a poor one. I think it will be seen as simply a delaying tactic to stop the third reading next week, and it will be very hard to explain why it isn't. What will you have gained? This isn't going to stop the bill. It's not going to bring us back to the status quo. And the government can still Parliament Act it. So I don't see any benefit to us whatsoever from doing it. And if I thought it was a good idea, I'd have done it months ago. You have put your name down, haven't you?
It's a registered, yes. Good. But no, I'm not putting 75 words.
No, very good.
I'm just leaving it as zilch.
Yeah, but you are... I mean, you've been here since, what, 1870? 1970.
You silly boy. I was here in 1955. I guess you were born. You were born, for God's sake.
So what time are we going to get the 75 worders tomorrow?
If you come after lunch, you'll definitely get them. If you come earlier, you should get them, but it'd be a pain for you to be hanging around.
Well, how are we looking numbers-wise?
Something like 200 candidates.
Overall?
Yeah, overall. Something like that. Maybe, actually, it's over 200 candidates now. More like 250 candidates.
The House of Lords and the peerage is, whatever everybody says, part of our culture, whether you like it or loathe it. And you know, the majority of people dislike it because they think it's unfair and inegalitarian, which is fair enough. Because what people say, when you ask people, and all the polls, and the rare polls that are done about the House of Lords, they tend to be critical. They tend to think that peers are all aristocratic snobs who lord it over people. I mean, that's the phrase, to lord over somebody is pejorative. Drunk as a lord is pejorative. The impression people have is of these men who get dressed up in funny old clothes, drink a little bit too much after lunch and have a nice snooze at the tailor's expense. They don't realise that some of them are like that, but the vast majority certainly aren't like that. I mean, there are loads of interesting people here who don't fit those caricatures. And that's why there's an interest, because there's a paradox in this whole place as well.
I'm not standing for anything. But I want to register to have a vote.
Yeah, that's fine.
The Earl of Rumney was a land agent until he retired and didn't inherit until he was 65. He's been coming down to attend the House from his small farm in Norfolk on a regular basis for the last 24 years.
And it's Lord Romney, isn't it?
The Earl of
Romney, yeah.
I'll be dead long before your film comes out. You shouldn't laugh like that, you should weep.
I'm not weeping because I think you're going to have an early death. I'm laughing because it takes me so long to make a film.
But I told you, didn't I, that I didn't used to buy a diary until the beginning of January.
Why?
Because I thought I might not need it. I think my birthday's next week and I should be 89 then.
What was your maiden speech about?
Haven't made it yet.
Oh.
That's disappointed you, haven't it? Though maiden speeches are supposed to be interesting and not repeating what other people say. They're not interested in what I've got to say, but they like to have my vote. They've always had it.
Would you describe yourself as lobby fodder?
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. That's what I am.
What?
Lobby fodder. You're absolutely right.
And do you have any qualms about that?
No, do you think that's a bad thing? You've got to have... That's the bright ones are supposed to speak, and the others are supposed to support them. That's how this thing works here.
Oh, Russell, would you be so kind, my lord, please? Thank you.
Yes, that'll be on its way, Lee.
It isn't just the Lords reform that's causing unhappiness. Another very controversial bill is passing through the House at the same time. Welfare reform.
The disabled, my lords, did not choose to be disabled. They unfortunately are disabled. I really do feel...
Some of the Lords are very uneasy about the government's proposals to means test disabled people claiming unemployment benefit. But the only power they have is to suggest amendments and ask the Commons to think again before it becomes law.
So the people concerned are being doubly punished by this clause. Its philosophy is, to him that hath shall be given, and from him that hath not shall be taken away even that he hath. It's not the policy of this party. I didn't think it was the policy of the Labour Party either.
It's the power of persuasion that drives a peer to vote for or against an amendment. And they have just 8 minutes to get to the division lobbies where they're locked in until they've been through to vote.
Could you go around the other way, Lord Davidson? Thank you very much.
There's a corridor for the contents and a corridor for the not contents. This is how the Lords make their views known.
The speeches, of course, aren't a perfect guide.
but it looks good. Ah, here we are. Ready? On the marks.
Earl Russell, son of philosopher Bertrand Russell, is an eminent historian and a professor at King's College, London. He's hoping to be one of the 92 elected to stay on in the House.
I would like to think that the acceptance of the 92 would be an acceptance that hereditaries are people and entitled to be treated on equal terms without discrimination. That might be rosy, but it would be nice if we'd got there. After all, we're not as a caste superior to everyone else, but we're not inferior either.
I'm going to stand and we shall see what we're going to do. I'm not going to write any sort of advertisement in my favour. I'm just going to let my name go forward.
Does it matter to you hugely if you do get it?
Very much. I very much want to go on.
What will you do if you don't get elected? How will that affect things?
I haven't really thought about that. I'll be up at home in Argyle, wearing my overalls, selling petrol from my petrol pumps.
Is that what you do?
Yes. I'm not here.
Can you explain that to me?
Sorry?
If you would you explain that to me?
I have a small filling station in Argyle, and I work there myself, hands-on, when I'm not here. I'm a comparatively ordinary bloke.
I took the decision a long time ago. I wasn't going to talk anybody out of standing. I think if they made the decision to stand, then they should stand, and that would be their decision. But I have told one or two of them that if they don't get in, that shouldn't, not to be too disappointed by that. Some people are saying, oh, well, I'm 75, am I too old? Well, I've always actually taken the view that age and experience in the House of Lords is quite a good thing. And if they were all my age, it would not be the chamber that it currently is.
I think I'm going to. I thought,
You want to stand?
What the hell?
Good.
I mean, it's so stupid. And I won't get in, but it doesn't matter. But if one hasn't done it, then it looks pretty silly, doesn't it?
Would you like us to send an acknowledgement letter to make confirm?
Probably never want to see it again.
Just change his mind.
But it's like the pools, really, isn't it?
Great.
I'm not quite sure they wanted it. What?
She said it's great.
Great?
Yes.
Who's great?
You.
Oh, well, I know that. She knows that.
Peers use the House in many different ways. Lord Westbury has a distinguished war record and is a prominent figure in St John's Ambulance. He uses the House to raise vast amounts of money for charity and is prepared to sit on the dullest of committees.
You're crossing me out.
Do you want to check that? Just
No, I don't want to check it at all. I can't read it. I see Westbury.
Yeah, and you're now a candidate. Easily.
I think I'm balmy, but I've been told I ought to do it and see what happens. I mean, I know I'm numero uno auto, so we wait and see.
I think they have to try their luck at it. Because after all the rest of us have to.
Try their luck at.
Open competition and see where they stand in it.
I think that's what they're so frightened of.
Well, of course. But once we accept that open competition, that, I think, does defuse the anger against us. And if there's a fight between two wolves and it's apparent one of them wins, the defeated wolf bends down and exposes the back of its neck to the winner, who snarls and snaps and rages, but can't bite. I think it's the right way to do it.
Can't bite?
It's taboo. And the defeated wolf holding its neck down like that is defenseless. It puts a taboo on biting him.
The Lords Reform Bill is coming back for its third and final reading tomorrow. Lord Strathclyde wants his backbenchers to let the bill pass to ensure the retention of the 92 hereditaries.
My Lords, looking around this room, I sense the political inexperience that I have. The former Secretaries of State, Cabinet Ministers, leaders of this House, and former chairman of this august association. I have long hoped that there might be a way to retain the status quo, that the government would drop the bill. I have accepted in recent months, and I think it is right that we should now recognize it, that this hope is in vain. I suspect that most of you would agree with me that with some notable exceptions, the British public and the British media will not lift a finger to defend the interests of the hereditary peers. But, my lords, the option to block the bill is still open to us. But it would be difficult, and I can think of nothing worse than sounding the bugle to defeat it and to lose the vote, and then have to justify that position. The headline, my lords, Toff's fight to keep privileges, is one that I never wish to see.
Is there something happening in there?
Yes, the Conservative peers have an amazing song.
Oh, yes, they must be deciding when they're going out to this place. Yes, that's tomorrow.
Is it, sir?
Yes, I think so, but I wouldn't get you involved in politics.
No, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
The place is edgy, it's bizarre, it's sensitive.
More so now than, say, last week or last summer?
Yes, certainly than last summer.
Why?
Well, I think it's the effects of the legislation as reality, you know, comes to the fore. But you can feel it all around the place.
Actually, the amount of time they've now got.
It's very small, very small. I mean, they're on the wire now, aren't they?
The House is packed for the third reading of the House of Lords Reform Bill. The Lord Chancellor, one of the main architects of the reform, takes his seat.
Third reading of the House of Lords Bill, the Baroness J. of Paddington.
Son of a peer, and he jumped onto the woolsack and started raving, and he's been dragged out of the chamber.
This is really the great thing, isn't it, about the hereditary peerage? You never know what's going to happen next.
Well, that was exciting, Michael. Lord Burford. Well, I've discovered.
He's the younger son of the eldest son of the Duke of St Albans, who got his title because Nell Gwyn was complaining that her newborn baby hadn't got enough money. And the king went round to see her, and he said, "I'll throw the baby out the window," to which she said, "Throw down the Duke of St Albans," and that's what that is.
Why did he jump in the woolsack? Why did he do that?
Because he thinks because he's dotty. And he's been writing us all letters saying we're throwing away heritage and all the rest of it.
Has he been removed?
He has been removed.
How very boring, so there's no point in going in.
We missed it.
You made me miss it.
My lords, I beg to move that this bill be now read a third time.
If noble lords opposite feel that it is worth their while to preserve the 92 members, if they think it is, in order that we should then proceed to a sensible reconstruction of this chamber, then they will not attempt to delay this bill or to mutilate it in any form. If they don't think it's worth their while, then we know what we're going to do. We've got a majority in the country. The country wants the hereditary peers to go. I certainly have always wanted them to go, and I hope they're going tonight.
It's been going on for a very, very long time. And if you look at the bust-up of 1910, on the budget of 1910, which culminated in the curtailment of the powers of the House of Lords, the preamble to that bill said that the reform of the House of Lords brooked no delay. Well, that was 1910.
So, my lords, I must invite my noble friends this evening to abstain, to let this bill pass, repugnant though that may seem. Of course the government could have acted better. Of course we could and should have had comprehensive reform in one go. They are a self-styled radical party with a huge popular mandate. They could have given us a real and lasting reform instead of tearing down a House of Parliament and leaving behind a question mark. That's the real issue, my lords. The blank page of the government's plans for the future. That is the real issue for the country.
So the Lords vote on the abolition of the hereditary peerage, and despite the rhetoric in the chamber, the results are inevitable.
There have voted contempt 221, not contempt 81, and so contempt.
The government gets its bill.
The grief, really. I mean, I really did feel grief.
You do? Why do you feel it so strong?
I tell you why I do. If they decided to reform the House of Lords, which is fine, I still say it's the finest revising chamber in the world, but if they felt that the hereditary peers, the time has come and they want to revise it, reform it, do whatever they will, then do it for all of us. How some can just be chucked out, and others, I mean, at the end of the day, why am I in the Lords? I ask myself, I'm there because a Prime Minister sent me. It's modern day patronage. And when you saw the glee of all those noble lords on the other side, that finally they'd somehow got rid of the hereditary peers, and they're so thrilled, but have they ever stopped to think, why are they there? Tony Blair sent a whole reef of them in lately. What, you know, will we be better at scrutinising legislation because it's modern day patronage?
They would argue because you personally earned it, not your father. Simple as that.
Maybe they would argue that, but I would say that I would rather have patronage of several hundred years ago, when the noble lords who have served this country well can look at it dispassionately, and they do not owe their position here to this Prime Minister or the one before.
Oh, it's incredible. They're bloody horrible.
They're a bit crude, aren't they?
These?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I said I expected something a bit special, to be quite honest. But this, no. I mean, I've got some giants who will actually not even be able to fit in these.
Giants meaning?
Peers, some big fellows. But this is not right.
You're recording yourself.
I'm not going to get it in, am I?
No, it isn't.
How about that?
That's brilliant.
I know what that means. Now, where do I go?
Depends what you are.
I'm just a sort of hereditary peer.
From which camp?
Conservative.
This way, Lord.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Up on the top floor of the House of Lords, 3 committee rooms have been turned into polling stations. Each party votes in a different room.
Chesham. What's your name, please?
Chesham.
Are you familiar with the proceedings? 42 votes, one's your first choice. You have to use all 42 votes. Yeah, that's right.
Suffolk.
Are you familiar with the procedure? 42 votes, one's your first preference.
1 to 32, is it?
1 to 42.
42. Right. And do I have to do all 42?
Yes, you have to do every single one without missing them out. Okay.
But you realise that you had to put 42 people in order.
Yes, no, I know it's far too complicated for someone like you.
Much too complicated.
The challenge.
Far too complicated.
I've been a bloody fool. I've got to put myself last. I ought to put myself first, wouldn't I? 33. I'm lost now.
My lord, can you leave the paper with me? Thank you.
You can't let them go, really. Just keep them in.
When a bill or anything is produced and laid on the table and then it's sent down here, all these people that they call old fuddy-duddies outside, this lot here, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. They break each amendment, each item down and debate it, and then they put it back together again like a full jigsaw, and then they send it back down to the other house. A lot of them know what they're talking about. If the public outside knew what this house actually does for them, maybe they'd find a different opinion.
The House of Lords is an amending chamber. It doesn't make laws, it amends them. And for that purpose, this is my view, for that purpose you do not need a lot of, say, second-rate elected people, elected on 23% of the votes of the population. What you actually need are experts. We need people who've been around, people who've actually worked for a living, and people who have expertise in certain fields.
Yeah.
That's what you want here.
The Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn.
Does it affect your business life, having a title?
Yes and no. It can be a big disadvantage because people don't take it seriously. Particularly in the early days in computers, people assumed that I must be about 90 and very thick. There's that sort of preconceived opinion of people with hereditary titles. Then it was an advantage because people got to know that there were a couple of lords around the place who actually knew things about computers, and it became an advantage because people remembered you. I've written software, designed computer systems, I'm involved in the internet, I'm also involved in training people in business and marketing. I'm chairman of a company which does procurement consultancy, and I find business for them. So there's a whole lot of other commercial skills out there and also modern technological skills.
Hello. I've got you marked down. Well done, thank you very much. Stay like that. Oh, it's a secret. I bet you'll have some models, won't you? I bet you will. Lord Bathurst.
Lord Bathurst. On what basis did you vote?
I voted for who I thought would be the best people to do the job, which is really difficult because some of them you like, some people you like very much clearly aren't going to do it. So what we're being asked to do is stab our friends in the back, which is pretty distasteful, really.
There is something a bit sick about making people vote for themselves, their own pack.
It's fantastically sick, and to have a 42, the sort of pathetic pretense, and this is democracy, when you've got 240 people voting for 116 candidates for 42 places. I mean, give me a break.
My Lord Chairman, I wonder, could I seek some advice from this committee about the practicalities of the implementation of the departure of hereditary peers. There are a number of issues which can be addressed, help with removing personal belongings from desks, the handing back of pages, passes, files, all those sorts of measures which, if addressed insensitively, will cause offence, but nevertheless need to be transmitted to as wide an audience as possible in the most sensitive way. Now, it seems to me that the most effective way to do it would be to put it on paper and send it to the peers concerned.
It's the only way, actually.
Lord Blackrod using his well-known discretion and diplomacy.
Lord Grey?
Yeah.
How difficult or easy did you find that process, the voting?
I think one of the half dozen most difficult things I've ever done in my life.
Really? Why?
The decision you made could be important, and also think about what one's doing to one's friends. Very hard. One has to balance so many considerations, as it makes one feel quite sick in the stomach, to be honest with you.
When you've gone for the obvious ones, do you then go for those who will turn up all the time, but may not, when they're here, have a great deal to offer, but are regular attenders? Or do you go for those who have a great deal more to offer when they come, but may not be very regular attenders? And I think you can give a perfect example of that by somebody who isn't standing, which is Lord Stanley, which is very sad he isn't standing, because he, on agriculture and on Wales, has a great deal to offer.
I said I wouldn't stand right at the beginning.
No, I tried to persuade you to stand.
No, well...
We're going to miss you.
No, you know, as I said, I think my main reason is that I wasn't prepared to come up regularly, which I think those who stay will have to, much more than I did. And also, on principle, I don't want to come here unless I've got a job. I've got actually something to do.
But that's the change. The change is that the part-time peer has gone.
Yes. You put your own interests, which is in my case farming, or somebody else being a dentist or being whatever, before the party, don't you? Right. And that is bad. That's a sin against the Holy Ghost. You've got to worship the party regardless.
They want the votes. Yes. They don't want people who will not turn up, like you and I didn't turn up, because we had other things to do.
You see, it's a vital point who is going to follow us. I think it's the one thing that the public really do support us. They don't support the hereditary peerage. Don't let's bluff ourselves to that for a minute. I'm not sure I support myself anyhow, but they do support the idea that they should know, we should know, who is going to take our place.
What are you coming to show me?
I would like you to read, please, the letter which I would send to non-elected hereditary peers after the election next Friday. But I would value your opinion about the tone and style of the letter.
Thank you.
Okay?
Nowadays, politics is a career. These people start aged, these sort of political advisors start at the age of about sort of 12, having come out of Red Brick University, go into central office or Millbank, immediately get given a sort of seat, end up in Parliament, and then they either make it or they don't. And then in their 40s or 50s they decide they need a career move. So they retire from politics and go into the city, hopefully having done quite well in politics so they can land a decent job. Actually it's the wrong way around. It means that you get people in politics for the wrong reasons. They're in politics for their own career reasons rather than for the benefit of the people they're meant to serve. It's a different game. I mean, the trouble is that our system in Britain was designed for amateurs. The House of Commons was designed, and the House of Lords was designed for people who had their own income, and therefore that side of it wasn't thought about. And we've now reached a watershed, and we're either going to have professional politicians, or we have to go back to the way it was before. We can't go back, so I guess we'll end up with professional politicians.
Which galleries is Lordship's guest to?
South East.
It's got something,
The trouble is how do you reform the House? And this is the real difficulty, because if you elect it, you've got to give it more power. Because if you don't give it more power, nobody in their senses would stand for election. I mean, why should they go to the bother of being elected if they haven't got any power? On the other hand, if it has more power, that means the House of Commons has less power. And the House of Commons will never agree to that. On the other hand, if you don't elect it and you have a nominated House, then they're just placemen of one form or another, and they're really no better than people like me. In fact, I'm hereditary, and therefore I'm beyond the pale. But in point of fact, a nominated House has just the same problems as a hereditary House. As I've said earlier, I think the problem is what you do instead.
Exactly. So who do you have sitting there?
What you do instead. And you see, it depends what you want the House of Lords to do.
The record was of this government. But on incapacity benefit, the government are acting disgracefully by hitting these people We are not jeopardising the good things, we're simply challenging the government who are hitting people with capacity benefit.
The Lords' dispute with the Commons over welfare reform has deepened. They've been objecting to the government's attempts to cut payments to disabled people, and the Lords are doing their utmost to persuade the government to think again. It's been a cross-party rebellion, but it's led by a Labour life peer, Jack Ashley.
This time is the first time since 1966 I have voted against the Labour government, or indeed against the Labour leadership when they're in opposition. So it's the measure of how strongly I feel.
So what are you trying to do?
What I'm doing is I'm leading a campaign to defend disabled people from the government's attempt to take money out of people who are at the poverty level.
And I think the argument about these people being well off, as the noble Lord Ricks hinted very briefly, grossly fails to take account of the extra costs of disability. And it gets more and more clear that we've underestimated those at every stage.
My Lords, the government, as your Lordships acknowledge, has the right to get its legislation through. Not my noble friend's legislation, not the Tory legislation, but the government's legislation. I ask you, my Lords, is it not time for your Lordships and my noble friend to acquiesce with grace in the considered decision of the elected House and send a bill which will benefit millions of our people on to royal assent?
According to the Parliament Acts, the Commons have ultimate supremacy. But if they want their bill this session, the Minister does have to go on bargaining and compromising up to the end. Alistair Darling has said that he won't play. I rather like my favourite sentence in the laws of cricket. When the umpire calls play, the side that refuses to play shall lose the match.
The opposition did win the match. The Lords supported Jack Ashley's amendments. The bill is now returning to the Commons in the hope they'll consider the Lords' revisions.
The last hat.
The last hat.
You know, when I'm in the queue, I'm the only one wearing a hat. And I'm going to go on. To hell with them.
Why?
Well, I don't have to be like other people. I've always worked on that system. And if I had a child, I would say individuality is everything.
Okay, bye-bye.
Come on, you'll get a shock if you come to Wensum Farm, I tell you.
Okay.
You will.
Anybody voting for this amendment tonight is voting on the same side as 2 dukes, 28 earls, 22 viscounts, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. This house is the prime elected house. The prime elected house, certainly.
Will my right honourable friend not acknowledge that it is possible that we are voting on the merits of the case?
The welfare reform issue has quickly become ensnared in the increasingly vicious arguments about House of Lords reform.
And in order, oh yes, this House insists, and anybody voting against the government on this is voting for the supremacy of the House of Lords. And when we reform the House of Lords, a reformed House of Lords will say, if they were ready to cave into the hereditaries, we much more democratic lot can have our way.
hereditary peers are often unfairly the whipping boys of any legislation which people think should get through, which doesn't get through. They always go on about it, so those bloody hereditaries, and it isn't half the time. I mean, this idea of busloads of hereditary peers, ermine flapping in the breeze, coming down from the furthest corners of this country to vote against the democratically elected government, is tosh if you actually stripped out the hereditaries from the last time the government proposal was defeated here. They'd have still been beaten. And they'd have been beaten because it's a lousy clause. It's nothing to do with the hereditaries.
Make no mistake about it, New Labour, whoever they are, this mystery group of people in their awful black suits, absolutely loathe us.
Who's us?
Loathe what their perception of the hereditary peerage, their perception of privilege and wealth. But of course, like all those things, those are rather strange perceptions. At the end of the day, it boils down to individuals.
Where did this appear?
I don't know where they got it from. Mrs. Marsham Jr. got it for me.
You don't find it just a jot humiliating? You don't?
Yes, it might be me, mind it, really, except I haven't got quite so much moustache there.
What did you think that I'd think that you lived in?
Yes, but you go and see people like Robin Ferris, who lives... Come on, Holly. Yeah, who live in there. And he probably got a butler, and I'm delighted for him. His son-in-law is my accountant, and he's a very nice fellow.
So do you think on the whole, do you think I would have expected you to have a stately pile?
Well, most earls do, don't they?
What we have got to do, all of us, is to deal with those people who are not elected to the new House in a courteous, constructive, patient way. We must not be heavy-handed, we must not be abusive, abrasive, or anything else. I don't want any examples, please, of somebody standing at the front door and saying, you can't come in here. If somebody arrives, he must be let in, and then we can deal with the matter in our own time afterwards. That's the style in which I want this, please, to be managed. What we must, above all, not do is to let this House down, and I look to you to help me in that respect. All right, 12 minutes. Thank you very much indeed.
What I thought might be a suggestion would be that the life peers and the ones that are going to be made up, could they wear their passes for a cooling off period of, say, 3 months to make it easier for us to identify? They get a separate letter.
I mean, yeah, it's a bloody good idea. But you will never force them to do so.
Oh, I know. I just thought that
I think
it might be helpful.
I mean, in an ideal world, if I was in a military environment, which I'm not, and could give orders, I would tell them to do just that.
Yeah.
But we can't do it.
The results of the election are to be announced in the chamber. Both winners and losers will hear how many votes they got.
They will stop this debate for the announcement for at 1 o'clock. Yeah.
Right.
You're coming back this afternoon?
No, I'm going to stay here now. I have an early lunch, and then as soon as I hear... I mean, it's pointless to wait, because I know, but still...
What do you know?
I should be quite interested to see who they picked.
Oh, you know you haven't got it?
Oh, I'm certain, yeah. Certain.
I said, God, you look scary.
I'm not scary. I'm rather nervous.
Are you? Why? What do you nervous of?
Well, just reading this endless list out, it's not going to be...
Why should you be nervous, though, about reading it?
Well, in case I make a mistake.
My Lords, with the leave of the House, I will now announce the results of the election of hereditary peers in accordance with the provisions of the House of Lords Bill and Standing Order 9. I shall start with the Conservative Party. Earl Ferrers, 190 votes. Lord Strathclyde, 174 votes. Lord Trefgarne, 173 votes. Lord Denham, 169 votes. Lord Mancroft, 168 votes. The Earl Howe, 165 votes. Lord Brabazon of Tara, 165 votes. The Earl of Caithness, 161 votes. Lord Henley, 160 votes.
That was the problem. What we do. Yes. You know, some people. Well done, David.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, nice to see you.
And you, I haven't seen you for ages.
A long time.
Hail and farewell. Well,
I think
my
so.
last appearance today. That's
I'm
coming here. I've had 53 years of very successful.
Happy time.
Happy time. And I hope you will keep things going. I know you will. Well, we must keep things up, but we're all reaching a certain age, aren't we? Yes, but you're...
Well done. Lovely to see you.
All the best.
Are you going to be here every day?
Yeah, until we go. Thursday, I'm told we're off.
Right. Do you have lockers and desks and business?
I've got to clear all that somehow.
Have you?
I thought I could nick while I'm in the building, you know, a few chairs and things like that.
Yes.
If you will think of anything, let me know.
I would keep a triangle bit of wood on my desk and some buggers nicked it.
Yeah, well, I've kept mine. I nicked
Someone's
that years
nicked
ago.
mine. Someone's nicked mine.
I think I'm going to go and nick a few towels from the lavatory.
Freiberg.
Oh, right.
He's a sculptor. So culture still has its
Desperately worried for the ordinary people of this country. I can go abroad, I can emigrate.
How did you do in the...
Oh, I don't think so. I got one fewer votes than I expected to.
One fewer?
Yes. They got 59 instead of 60.
My name is Monk Breton.
Monk Breton? Yes. I gather that you weren't successful.
That's right.
Right.
2 T's.
2 T's, right.
How long have your relatives been attending here?
The family?
Yes.
I think it's 1884. I'm not quite sure.
Right.
Is that how far back your title goes? Right. Now, what do you think about this whole reform business anyway?
Do you resent this media interest at all?
No, I wish I'd got interested earlier. Those people outside just don't have an idea of what's happening. They're not interested, I don't think, in what is happening in the House of Lords or what has happened, until, of course, it's too late. And I think they would be sad if they thought that yet another part of the Constitution is being irrevocably altered. And that's what is happening.
The Lord Monk Breton, and he hasn't won, so could you get a picture of him? Grab him. I'm going to go down the printed
Apparently, these guys who haven't succeeded had a letter from Blackrod telling them to get out by Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievably rude and unnecessary, and there's no...
Yeah, but that's driven by Our Lady.
Yeah.
Well, no, I beg your pardon. I mean, that's...
Yes, well, yes, I use you using the expression a bit loosely, if I may say so.
This Parliament is drawing to a close, and Blackrod is expecting a team from Buckingham Palace. Arrangements have to be fine-tuned for the Queen's arrival next week to open the new Parliament.
You could explain in words of one syllable what's going on.
Yeah, should we do that while we're waiting for the outcome? Would that be all right?
Time well spent.
Right.
So, we are envisaging the state opening of Parliament on the 17th of November to take its traditional form.
As far as I'm concerned, it will follow precisely, there are one or two little details, but it will follow precisely the format of last year.
Including roads?
Yes?
Yes. Piers will be roads.
Piers will be road. I mean, the only thing I wanted to talk about is the participation of other members of the royal family.
Yes. I believe it is not envisaged that the royal dukes will take part.
It is the view of this house that they will not be entitled to take part.
Correct.
I mean, are we confirming that the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester and the Duke and Duchess of Kent will not be there?
That's my understanding, that they have no right to be there.
Is that
very clear?
Is that clear?
Yes, very clear. What about the Lord Steward?
My understanding is that the Queen can bring anybody in her retinue that she wishes. I mean, you know, if you take...
Is he road?
Is he normally road?
Yes. But he will no longer be a member of this house.
But he'll still have robes. I mean...
He can still dress up,
He can still dress up.
I'm just...
No,
I'm flying it to be shot down.
Yes. Well, my understanding is that he will live in Northumberland and he will be the Viscount Ridley.
You can't stop that.
And you can't stop that. And you can't stop, it seems to me, but I'd better check on this, the accoutrements that go with it.
Thanks, Bob.
I've never been to the state opening, and I don't have a robe. And many of your former colleagues will not need their robes. Have you got Earl of Eden robes? Yes, but what they need is for me to know a hereditary peer who is not coming back, because they don't want to approach them because they feel it's offensive, which I agree. But if there was somebody that that you knew that wouldn't be offended, I could mention that name. Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lord Kinnoul's going, Lord Strathcona's going, Lord Newell's going, Sands will be going, Harmon Nichols will be staying, he's a life peer. He never comes in. His daughter is Audrey in Coronation Street. What? Do you ever watch Coronation Street?
No.
Oh, well, you walk through, because she's marvellous. And I'm longing to meet her, and I which is rather sad. Ah! I gather you're coming to my piss-up.
Yes, 12:30 is it?
12 till 2. Charles,
We have met.
have you met this heavenly bird?
I have, of course.
She wants an interview now because you're one of the fortunate few. He's got a hotline to the Pope, that's why he's got it.
He is still living in the days of 1688. Dutch William and all that.
1642, please.
1688.
I'm so ignorant, I don't know what either date means.
That 1688 was when Catholics were forbidden to go on the throne of England. And his dirty son-in-law from Holland came in.
He was a good chap.
Kicked out daddy-in-law.
Oh my God, I've done nothing about that. Oh, I bet it's over too. Reform of the House of Lords, straight in the Westfield advice. All my church warden, but I'm on the ecclesiastical, I'm off it now, I presume.
We've got to clear our desks too.
I'm doing that tomorrow morning. You've got to be out by the 17th.
That's right. That's why I'm coming next week. I haven't had that instruction yet.
Well, it is on the bit of bump. The rude letter from Black Rod.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, another poor fella. Oh, God, this is a sort of dustbin. It's a sort of dustbin in the House of Lords, yeah?
Marshall's Knightsbridge. Oh, sorry. No, it can't be right, this, can it? No, sorry, you're quite right. Put that back in there and pick them from here. Those people...
Oh, yes, because these
are
people who weren't
Yeah. Pick them from there. Pick them back, please.
The Lord Great Chamberlain's ballot for the limited seats available to peers for state opening always causes problems, but it's never been quite as complicated as this.
Kirkham, Levine, Lewis of Newnham, Limerick,
Out.
Liverpool,
In.
In.
Yep.
Lucas of Chilworth, he's out.
Out.
Norton.
Out.
Rothermere, he's in. He was 42nd on the Conservative list.
Young.
No, I'm telling her right, I'm talking about Rotherwick.
Yeah, oh, Rotherwick's in, Rothermere's out.
Rothermere's out. Roe Allen is out. Trefgarn is in. Vivian is in. Wakeham, life. Waldegrave of North Hill, life. Westbury, out.
Oh, you are well disciplined. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank all the doorkeepers for their kindness to me over the last 25 years or something like that. I think you're all very marvellous. And I hope we all meet again soon. I won't tell Black Rob, but he asked for my past to be given back. I'm so sorry, I've lost it.
Well, Lord, nice to see you again. I hope you. I won't stop you coming in. You know, you come in.
It's been a privilege knowing you.
You bloody old fool.
Yeah.
What do you say, Sexton?
In floods of tears now.
Who?
You.
No. I mean, but you know, the awful thing is, I never cried. I was frightfully tough. And now I see a film, and I blub my bloody heart out. So, this is much too serious to blubber.
Oh, don't be difficult. I just don't try to be difficult. Listen, I put the television in.
Television in what?
Well, I put the video in the television, so all you've got to press are the two little tits.
For Coronation
For Coronation
Street.
Street.
When is he going to watch Coronation Street?
Tomorrow, tonight. He's going home. He can't.
Good night, darling.
Good night.
I think he wishes he hadn't stood because he thinks that it was undignified. And I said, you've got to jolly well stand because there was always just a chance that he might have got in. And it's been a great part of his life, and he's done an enormous amount for charity in one way and another. And this place has been the stepping stone for making millions of pounds because people have come in here who have never got here before, you know? And have given him thousands of pounds because of it. And I think he'll miss all that dreadfully. And I mean, he misses all the people. I mean, it's all the doorkeepers, all the peers, you know. There are a lot of pals who's been with him all his life. Anyway.
And the lift. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Over the last couple of weeks, there's been this terrible feeling of failure. And
Felt by who? Felt by who? Do you feel failure?
Well, I do and I don't. I wish we could have come up with an even better result. We haven't. And I think that, you know, over the last couple of weeks, you know, there has been this feeling of failure. And if there has been a failure, then I very much take the responsibility for that. You know, we are the generation that lost the honours that were bestowed on our forebears. And I think for all of us, there are the ancestral voices, the ghosts of the past that haunt this place, and who would ask, did we do the right thing?
A very strange afternoon and a very strange and peculiar day.
Why is that, Wilgrave?
There's a lot of emotion, people try not to show it. And also we're trying to do very serious business at the same time.
The House waits for the last business of this parliamentary session. It's the Welfare Reform Bill, which is coming back from the Commons.
Always makes me think of Joe Grimmon's line about marching his troops towards the sound of the gunfire.
We've got a message. Yes, I know. We've got a message from the Commons. Mr. Mackay coming down.
Despite Lord Ashley's attempts to protect the disabled from means testing, the government has rejected both of his amendments for a second and final time, and they are in no mood to compromise any further.
We do not believe that is the right way to proceed, my lords.
And if this continues, sooner or later, it will become more and more evident that this country can no longer tolerate an unelected House holding the people's chosen government to ransom.
All history, isn't it?
My Lords, the issue tonight has got bigger. When the government doesn't have, to coin a phrase, Dick Hereditary to kick around anymore, they're going to have to rethink the purpose of this House. People will not come here for snobbery. They won't come here unless they have a decent job of work to do. And they won't feel they have a decent job of work to do unless occasionally they can change something. So I think we need to think about whether we want a revising chamber which is capable of checking a government when it doesn't want to be checked.
Oh no, that's the best I've ever heard you, so well done.
Tonight was a caricature of the normal.
Mm.
You get these once every 5 years. They're getting a little worse each round.
Mm.
And the trend is downwards, but it's fighting an evil which is as old as Adam.
Which is?
Love of power. What's really changed is the extent of executive dominance over the House of Commons. And you saw tonight, and you've seen all the way through this rebellion, that the fact that the majority of the House of Commons in private disagrees with something doesn't mean it feels any freedom to vote it down. That's the real change of my lifetime. Which means the House of Commons, which was supposed to be a check on ministers, no longer really is.
Night-night.
Good night.
How does that affect somebody watching this or somebody on the street?
It means that if the government gets a silly idea, nobody can stop them.
So you've got a flat side to the front.
Well, that's what you told me.
No, sorry, that's the back, that one. That's the...
That isn't. That is what you told me. That's on the right hand side.
That's the front, yeah, that's
what I said. You said that wasn't the right way. You did.
Sorry.
The closing ceremony of this parliamentary session is called prorogation and is the point at which all the bills passed become law.
This is the moment when the House of Lords bill comes into effect. We're about to hear the thud of the guillotine coming down. When this is over, the hereditary peers are no more.
And so the hereditary peers pass into history, leaving behind the elected 92 and a dilemma as to what would make the second chamber both fair and democratic.
If you want to make a change, you want always to keep one foot on the ground at any one time. I mean, that's a good military view. Always keep one foot on the ground at any one time. This government has taken the whole lot off the ground at once. There's nothing that's constant.
Why? Why do you think they're so determined to uproot it all?
I think because they feel that a lot of it is old-fashioned. Let's move into the 20th century. I mean, the Prime Minister put it quite well. He said people love to come to see dear old England. He said we want people to come to see good old England, so progressive. The actual fact is that the future of your country depends upon what happens at the present and depends upon what happened in the past, because it's like a great big building. You build brick upon brick and gradually things get higher and higher. And you can't just destroy these things. If you destroy the one, you destroy the whole lot. I don't say the continuity is the be-all and the end-all, but it does help, and it helps in an unstable world.
We're going to start my rehearsal, and we're starting with the Queen's arrival at the bottom of the stairs.
It's the Duke of Norfolk's full rehearsal for tomorrow's state opening. The Lord Chancellor arrives with Margaret Beckett from the Commons. Lord Irvine is keen to change the way Parliament's conducted, but for the moment the old traditions and rituals are being observed.
The Lord Great Chamberlain's here.
Yes,
somewhere.
he's here. Yeah, he's there.
The Earl Marshal's here.
Yes.
The Sword of State is here.
David Craig's here, yes.
When the minor royals process in.
There are no minor royals. They are no longer eligible. Gloucester's, Kent's, Princess Margaret, no longer eligible.
They're out.
They're out. They're hereditary.
Oh, hereditary.
Yeah.
Silly me. Yeah.
You told me there's too much of a gap here. No news is good news, so to speak.
Definitely no news, right?
Upheavals in Parliament are nothing new. To put things into a historical perspective, Earl Russell took me to a room high above the chamber in the Victoria Tower. Here in the Acts Room are all the old Acts of Parliament dating back to the 15th century.
Swabeye or seigneur. Send it to the Lords. That means the Commons are finished with it. À cette bill, les seigneurs sont assentus. The Lords have agreed to this bill. I think the parallel I would see most closely is to the first pressure for parliamentary reform. And I came across quite recently a speech by my great-grandfather in 1822, in which he said, "The votes of the House of Commons no longer represent the nation," which is so patently true at the moment, it brings you up with a jerk.
The velvet purse contains the government's plans for the future, which the Queen will read out.
If you take a presidency like the United States, there are checks and balances. I mean, the President of the United States, as compared with the Prime Minister of this country, is impotent. The Prime Minister of this country has got no checks and balances. And there are even the checks and balances that were in the House of Lords are disappearing. They went up to March, but they're disappearing because you've now got a situation, unless you get a totally reformed House of Lords, which is going to be very nothing at all. And even in a reformed House of Lords, you're always going to get the cry in the House of Commons that it's the will of the people, and the second chamber has no right to interfere. Well, if that is so, you have what Lord Hailsham in the old days used to call an elective dictatorship. I think it worries people. Worries me.
Why?
It worries me that Parliament no longer seems to matter very much.
You see how few Lords were present these last few weeks before the House was abolished. This is the day of the King's execution. 5 Lords attending. The ones who wouldn't stand for it weren't there. At the end of the month, they're abolished by an order of the House of Commons, which said that they were both useless and dangerous, which is an intriguing paradox.
You see, we know that at the moment we've got a Prime Minister who doesn't believe in history. Well, of course, I believe terrifically in history. What's happened before, or the best of it, we should keep it.
But then it's not history. Surely it's not that he doesn't believe in history, but he doesn't think history should be the present, i.e. hereditary peers sitting in the House of Lords. I suppose that's his belief.
Well, my answer to that is that if you're a real democracy, a democrat, of course, the old House of Lords was absolutely untenable. And I've always recognised that, and I knew that my tenure there would be limited. And I wasn't really surprised when I went.
But do you not think it's important to be democratic?
Well, it's a sort of excuse, isn't it?
For what?
For consulting everybody and doing what nobody wants.
The streets of Westminster are cleared. The Queen is arriving for the state opening of Parliament.
Eldest son, you'd like to come that way, eldest son.
She will be joined by the judges, the bishops, and the rest of the lords. Then the Prime Minister will lead the Commons through to the opening of a changed Parliament.
It's a disgrace me arriving late.
You've arrived after the Queen.
No, I haven't. Don't go over the black line.
Are you a Democrat? Do you believe in democracy?
No, I don't.
What do you believe in?
A benevolent government of the well-informed.
What is your ideal of how things?
It's a very difficult question there. Now I'm getting... I'm just doing what I was saying you shouldn't do. I don't really know, but the way democracy works, it's absolutely... It's so irresponsible.
Irresponsible?
Yes, people say, what's he done for me? Or I don't like the look of his face. I wouldn't trust that fellow. Haven't you heard people say that?
Yes.
Well, is that the way to use your vote?
My Lords and members of the House of Commons, my government are committed to further long-term reform of the House of Lords. My government are committed to creating a modern, integrated and safe transport system, providing more choice for the travelling public. To prepare Britain as a dynamic, knowledge-based economy, my government will introduce a bill to promote electronic commerce and electronic government, improving our ability to compete in the digital marketplace.
Today, 3 years later, reform still hangs in the air. Having got rid of most of the hereditaries, this government is now having to face up to what previous administrations had avoided. The question of who do you put in our second chamber, and what power and influence the new chamber will come to have in our parliamentary democracy.
Okay, gents. Okay.
Kevin Keegan off of Big Scotland again.
Kevin Keegan off of Big Scotland.
Nancy past the